My landlord burst in with a camera crew. "This is the tenant from hell I told you about. They were filming for reality TV." I smiled and handed the producer a folder. Inside were documented code violations, illegal entries, and harassment. The episode aired. About him. The frosting was still in my sister's hair when my mother hugged her. White buttercream, 3 tears worth, dripping down Madison's face and onto Mom's burgundy dress. The wedding cake, my wedding cake, the one I'd spent 6 months planning with a pastry chef who'd trained in Paris, was now a crater of crushed fondant and shattered sugar flowers across the reception hall floor. Madison stood in the middle of the wreckage, chest heaving, mascara running, and screamed, "You think you're better than me?" 200 guests had gone silent. My new husband, James, had his hand on my shoulder. The photographer had her camera up, capturing everything. And my mother, who'd raised us both, who'd supposedly loved us equally, wrapped Madison in her arms and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Shh, baby, it's okay. She just needs to vent." I didn't say a word. I stood there in my Vera Wang dress, $8,400 worth of silk and lace, and smiled. Not the smile you give when you're happy. The smile you give when you've just made a decision that's going to change everything. That night, while Madison slept off her champagne tantrum in Mom's guest room, I withdrew $9,400 from the joint account I'd set up for her tuition. Then I sent an email to her landlord, the one whose lease I'd co-signed because family helps family, requesting an immediate freeze on the agreement due to my withdrawal of financial support. At 8:40 a.m., Madison would wake up to find out what better really costs. But that's not where this story starts. I'd been the responsible one for 26 years when Madison decided to destroy my wedding. Our roles had been set early. I was 3 when Madison was born, old enough to remember Mom handing me a bottle and saying, "Help me feed your sister." I was 7 when I started making Madison's school lunches because Mom had started working double shifts. I was 12 when I learned to forge Mom's signature on permission slips because she was always too tired to sign them herself. Madison was the baby, the charming one, the one who could smile her way out of consequences while I took honors classes and worked part-time at the library to save for college. Mom called it balance. I called it what it was, favoritism wrapped in exhaustion. When I got into Northwestern on a full academic scholarship, Mom cried. Happy tears, she said. But I caught her later that night on the phone with Aunt Carol saying, "I just worry about Madison. She doesn't have Elena's drive, you know." Translation: Elena will be fine on her own. Madison needs me. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in finance. I got a job at a consulting firm in Chicago. I rented a studio apartment in Lincoln Park and sent money home every month, $500, like clockwork, because Mom was still working doubles and Madison was still in high school, still needing things. Madison graduated with a 2.8 gigapascals and no plan. She worked at a Sephora for 8 months, got fired for showing up late too many times, then announced she wanted to go to college after all. "I want to study psychology," she told me over FaceTime. "I want to help people." I didn't point out the irony. Mom couldn't afford tuition. Madison didn't qualify for scholarships, so I did what I'd always done. I helped. I set up a joint account. I deposited $12,000, 6 months of saving, careful budgeting, skipped vacations. I told Madison the deal. I'd pay for her first year at community college, cover her rent for an apartment near campus, and help her apply for financial aid for year 2. All she had to do was maintain a 3 gigapascals and stay enrolled. "You're the best big sister in the world," Madison said, hugging me so hard I could smell her coconut shampoo. I wanted to believe her. The problem started small. October. Madison called to say she'd missed her first tuition payment deadline because she forgot to check the portal. I paid the late fee $150 and set up automatic reminders on her phone. November. She needed $400 for textbooks. I sent it. Then another $300 for lab fees. I sent that too. December. She failed 2 classes. "The professors were terrible," she said. "Everyone fails their classes." I looked up the professors on Rate My Professor. They had 4.2 and 4.5 star ratings. I told Madison she needed to retake the classes and get at least a B. She said I was being controlling. January. I met James. He was a senior architect at the firm where I'd just made associate consultant. We met at a company mixer, talked for 3 hours about sustainable building design and the best deep dish pizza in Chicago, and exchanged numbers. Our first date was at a Japanese restaurant in River North. Our second was the Art Institute. By March, we were serious. By June, he'd proposed. I said yes with every cell in my body. Mom was thrilled. Finally, she said, "You deserve happiness, Elena. You've worked so hard." Madison congratulated me over text. "Oh my God, congrats." Then, 2 days later, "Can I be a bridesmaid?" I said yes. Of course I said yes. She was my sister. The wedding planning was supposed to bring us closer. I flew Madison out to Chicago in July to go dress shopping. I paid for her flight, her hotel, her meals. We spent 6 hours in bridal boutiques, trying on dresses, laughing at the ridiculous ones, crying at the beautiful ones. Madison helped me choose the Vera Wang strapless, fitted bodice, chapel train. She stood behind me in the mirror, hands on my shoulders, and said, "You look like a princess." I paid for her bridesmaid dress too. Dusty rose, floor length, $340. She complained it was too plain, but I reminded her that the wedding aesthetic was romantic minimalism, and she'd look stunning. August. Madison called at 11 p.m., sobbing. She'd gotten evicted from her apartment for missing rent twice. "I thought you were paying it automatically," she said. "I'm covering tuition reception and the security deposit, I said. Rent is your responsibility. That's what we agreed. I've been stressed. I have a job, but they're not giving me enough hours. She worked at a Starbucks, part-time, 15 hours a week. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be the bad guy. So I co-signed a lease for a new apartment, smaller, cheaper, and paid the first month's rent myself. Another $900 gone. Thank you, Madison whispered. I don't know what I'd do without you. I told myself it was the last time. September. James and I finalized the wedding details. Venue, a historic estate in Lake Forest. Guest count, 220. Caterer, a Michelin-recommended chef. Cake, 3 tiers, champagne-flavored, decorated with hand-painted sugar peonies. The cake alone cost $1,800. Madison called the week before the wedding. Hey, so, I know you've been really busy, but I need a favor. My stomach tightened. What kind of favor? Tuition's due again, and I'm like $600 short. I had to buy a new laptop because mine died, and Madison, you're supposed to budget for this. I know, but it was an emergency. Can you just cover it this once, please? I closed my eyes, breathed. Fine, I'll transfer it tomorrow. You're the best. Oh, and do you think I could bring a +1 to the wedding? I've been seeing this guy. We already finalized the seating chart. It's just one person, Elena. God, you're so rigid sometimes. I hung up and stared at my phone for 10 minutes. James found me on the couch, staring into space. You okay? He asked. My sister's bringing a date I didn't approve. Do you want me to call her? No, it's fine. It's always fine. Except it wasn't. The wedding day started perfect. Hair and makeup at 9 a.m., photos at noon, ceremony at 4 p.m. under a floral arch with 200 people watching as James and I promised to love each other through everything. The vows I'd written made my mother cry. James's best man made everyone laugh. The sun set golden over the lake. The reception started at 6:30 p.m. Madison arrived late, 7:15 p.m., halfway through cocktail hour. She was wearing the bridesmaid dress, but she'd altered it. Cut the hemline shorter, added bedazzled straps. She looked like she was going to a club, not a wedding. You changed the dress, I said when she found me near the bar. It needed personality, she said, shrugging. You said romantic minimalism. I made it romantic. I let it go. I was too happy to fight. Dinner was perfect. Speeches were heartfelt. Our first dance was to The Way You Look Tonight, and James whispered, I'm the luckiest man alive. Then came the cake cutting. James and I stood in front of the 3-tier masterpiece, knife in hand, smiling for the photographer. The DJ had cued the music. Guests had gathered around with their phones out. I was mid-laugh, James's hand over mine on the knife, when I heard Madison's voice behind me. Must be nice. I turned. She was standing 5 feet away, champagne flute in hand, swaying slightly. Her date, some guy I'd never met, wearing a wrinkled button-down, had his arm around her waist. What? I said. Must be nice, Madison repeated, louder. Having everything. The perfect husband, the perfect job, the perfect life. The room had started to quiet. Madison, I work my ass off and I get nothing. But you? You just coast. You've always been the favorite. My chest tightened. This isn't the time. When is the time, Elena? You're always too busy for me. Too important. James stepped forward. Hey, maybe we should stay out of it, Madison snapped. Then she looked at me, and her expression twisted into something ugly. Something I'd never seen before. You think you're better than me. Madison, I don't. She picked up her champagne flute and threw it. Not at me. At the cake. The glass shattered against the bottom tier. Frosting exploded. The top tier wobbled, tipped, and collapsed. Madison lunged forward and shoved the whole thing off the table. 3 tiers. $1,800. 6 months of planning gone. Destroyed. Crushed under her hands as she screamed, You think you're better than me? I stood frozen. James pulled me back. The photographer's camera flashed. Guests gasped. And my mother, who should have been horrified, who should have stopped her, rushed to Madison's side, wrapped her in a hug, and said, Shh, baby, it's okay. She just needs to vent. I looked at Mom, at Madison, at the cake wreckage, and I smiled. The reception ended early. Guests filtered out awkwardly, offering half-hearted congratulations and sympathetic looks. The catering staff cleaned up the cake. James held my hand and asked if I was okay at least 15 times. I told him I was fine. I wasn't. At 11 p.m., Mom called. Elena, honey, I'm so sorry. Madison's been under a lot of stress with school, and she snapped. You know how she gets. She destroyed my wedding cake. I know. It was wrong, but she's your sister. She loves you. She's struggling. She's always struggling, Mom. Don't be cruel. I hung up. James was in the shower. I sat on the edge of our hotel bed, still in my Vera Wang dress, and opened my laptop. I logged into the joint account I shared with Madison. Balance, $9,400. Tuition for spring semester, already deposited, ready to be withdrawn for payment next week. I transferred all of it to my personal account. Then I opened my email and wrote to Madison's landlord, a guy named Rick Chen, mid-50s, owned 3 rental properties near her college. I'd met him once when I co-signed the lease. Subject, withdrawal of financial support, lease for Madison Torres. Mr. Chen, I am writing to inform you that I am withdrawing my financial support and co-signer status for the lease agreement at 428 Maple Street, Unit 3B, effective immediately. I will no longer be responsible for rent payments or any associated costs. Please update your records accordingly. Best, Elena Torres. I hit send at 11:47 p.m. Then I shut my laptop, took off my dress, and went to bed. Madison called at 8:42 a.m. I was in the hotel restaurant with James, eating French toast and trying to pretend the night before hadn't happened. My phone buzzed. Madison's name. I declined the call. She called again. Declined. 3 more calls. Then texts. Madison, what did you do? Madison, the money is gone. Madison, Elena, answer me. Madison, my landlord just called me. Madison, you can do this. I put my phone face down on the table. James looked at me. Is that her? Yeah. Are you going to answer? No. Elena, she destroyed my wedding cake, James, in front of 200 people, and Mom defended her. I'm done. He reached across the table and took my hand. Okay, that was it. Just okay. No lecture about family, no guilt trip, just support. I loved him so much in that moment, I could barely breathe. The fallout was immediate. By 10 a.m., Mom was calling. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Elena Marie Torres, what have you done? Madison is hysterical. She says you took her tuition money and canceled her lease. That can't be true. Call me, now. Aunt Carol called. Uncle Mike called. Even my cousin Jessica, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, sent a Facebook message. Hey, I heard about the wedding. Is Madison okay? Not, is Elena okay? Not, that must have been awful for you. Just, is Madison okay? I blocked them all. James and I flew to the Maldives for our honeymoon. We spent 2 weeks in an overwater bungalow, snorkeling, reading, having sex on the private deck, and not answering phone calls from my family. It was the best 2 weeks of my life. When we got back to Chicago, I had 47 missed calls and 89 text messages. I ignored all of them except one, an email from my bank. Madison had tried to dispute the withdrawal from the joint account, claiming it was unauthorized. The bank had denied her claim because my name was on the account, and I had full legal access to the funds. She'd also tried to report me to the police for theft. According to a voicemail from a very bored-sounding Officer Dennis Huang, there was no theft because the money was in a joint account under both our names. It's a civil matter, he said, not criminal. Madison left me a voicemail at 2:34 a.m. You ruined my life. I hope you're happy. I hope your perfect marriage falls apart. I hope. I deleted it before she finished. Mom showed up at our apartment 3 days after we got back. James answered the door. I heard her voice from the bedroom. I need to talk to Elena. She doesn't want to talk to you, James said. She's my daughter, and she's my wife, and you let her sister destroy our wedding while you stood there and did nothing. Silence. Then Mom's voice again, quieter. I know Madison was wrong, but Elena can't just abandon her. She's family. Family doesn't destroy wedding cakes and scream at you in front of 200 people, James said. You need to leave. I heard the door close. I stayed in the bedroom and cried for 20 minutes while James held me. 2 weeks later, I got a letter, not from Madison, from a lawyer, Catherine Rios, J.D. Rios and Partners Family Law, specializing in estate disputes, trusts, and domestic mediation. The letter was polite, professional, and infuriating. Dear Miss Torres, I represent your sister, Madison Torres, regarding the withdrawal of financial support for her education and housing. Miss Torres believes this action was retaliatory and done in bad faith. She is requesting mediation to resolve this matter amicably. Please contact our office to schedule a meeting. I stared at the letter for a full minute. Then I called my own lawyer. His name was David Park, 38 years old, partner at a mid-sized firm, specializing in contract disputes and family law. I'd worked with him once on a consulting project. He was sharp, thorough, and didn't tolerate bullshit. I handed him the letter. He read it, then looked at me. Do you have documentation? Of what? Everything. The joint account agreement, the lease you co-signed, any communication with your sister about the terms of your financial support. I nodded. I have texts, emails, bank records. Good. Bring me everything. I spent the next 3 days compiling it all. The joint account agreement, signed by both of us, clearly stating we both had equal access to funds. Text messages showing Madison agreeing to maintain a 3 gigapascals in exchange for tuition support. Her failing grades from the fall semester. Rent payment records showing I'd covered her rent twice when she'd failed to pay. The lease co-sign agreement with Rick Chen. Email correspondence about tuition deadlines she'd missed. David reviewed it all and smiled. This is airtight. You had every legal right to withdraw from that account, and her lawyer knows it. This mediation request is a bluff, so what do? You respond, politely, and you make it clear that there's nothing to mediate. David sent a response letter on my behalf. Dear Miss Rios, I represent Elena Torres regarding your client's request for mediation. Miss Torres has reviewed your letter and declines mediation. The withdrawal of funds from a jointly held account was entirely legal, as was her decision to withdraw financial support for her sister's education. There is no contractual obligation, verbal or written, requiring Miss Torres to continue providing financial assistance. Furthermore, Miss Torres was not legally obligated to co-sign her sister's lease and had every right to withdraw that support. Any disputes regarding rent payments should be directed to the landlord. Miss Torres considers this matter closed. Sincerely, David Park, J.D. Madison's lawyer never responded, but my family did. Mom sent me an email in early November. Elena, I don't know who you've become, but it's not the daughter I raised. Madison made a mistake. She apologized. But you've taken everything from her. Her tuition, her apartment, her future. She had to move back home. She's sleeping on my couch. She's devastated. You had every right to be upset about the cake, but this is cruel. If you don't fix this, you're going to regret it. Mom, I read it twice. Then I wrote back. Mom, Madison destroyed my wedding in front of 200 people. You hugged her and told her it was okay. I don't regret anything. Elena, I blocked her email after that. Madison tried one more time. December 3rd, 6:47 p.m. I was at home, cooking dinner with James, when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. Elena, Madison's voice. Quiet, shaky. How did you get this number? I asked. I'm calling to apologize. I stopped stirring the pasta sauce. James looked at me. I'm listening, I said. Madison took a breath. I was wrong. At your wedding, I was drunk, and I was jealous, and I took it out on you. I'm sorry. Silence. That's it? I said. What do you want me to say? I want you to admit that you've spent your entire life expecting me to fix your problems while you do nothing to fix yourself. That's not fair. You failed 2 classes. You missed rent payments. You showed up late to work so many times you got fired. And every single time I bailed you out. I gave you $12,000, Madison. I co-signed your lease. I paid for your bridesmaid dress, and you thanked me by destroying my wedding cake. Her voice cracked. I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't pay for 3 tiers of custom cake. Sorry doesn't erase the memory of you screaming at me in front of my husband's entire family. So what, you're just going to cut me off forever? Yes. I hung up. James pulled me into a hug. I didn't cry. I just stood there, in our kitchen, smelling garlic and tomatoes, and felt and nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just relief. 3 months later, I got a message from Aunt Carol. Madison dropped out of school. She's working at Target now. Your mom's worried about her. I know you two aren't speaking, but maybe you could reach out, just to check in? I didn't respond. 6 months later, James and I bought a house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a backyard with a maple tree. We painted the kitchen yellow and adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit. We hosted dinner parties with our friends. We went to farmers markets on Sundays. I got promoted to senior consultant. James won an award for sustainable design. We started talking about having kids. I didn't think about Madison until I did. October, almost a year after the wedding. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a post from a mutual friend, someone I'd gone to high school with who was still connected to Madison. It was a photo of Madison. She was standing in front of a community college, holding a certificate. The caption read, "So proud of my girl for finishing her medical assistant certification. You've worked so hard." I stared at the photo. Madison looked different, thinner, tired, but she was smiling. A real smile, not the performative one she used to flash when she wanted something. I closed Instagram and put my phone down. James was on the couch, reading. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, and I was. I never reached out to Madison. She never reached out to me. Mom sent a Christmas card that year. I didn't open it. Aunt Carol stopped messaging. The family group chat silent, and I was fine with that, because here's what I learned. You don't owe people forgiveness just because they're family. You don't owe them access to your life, your money, or your peace just because you share DNA. Madison made her choices. I made mine. She destroyed my wedding cake and screamed that I thought I was better than her. I withdrew her tuition and froze her lease. At 8:40 a.m., she found out what better really costs, and honestly, I'd do it again.